Basement Politics with Freddy Vazquez. Tonight, Yonkers City Councilman John Rubbo joins me for the first time live in the basement. Good evening, John. How you doing?
Good, Freddie. How you doing?
Great. Good. Councilman Rubbo, thank you for joining me this evening. First time you're on the show. And I appreciate you making the time. I know you're a very busy man. You have a lot going on, so I appreciate it. So I just wanted to start out by just getting to know you a little bit more. You and I, we've seen each other here and there, but I've never really talked a whole lot. I like to look up on the people that I'm going to be interviewing, do a little research. And I've joked with you. I know I've made jokes on the podcast before, and we've talked about it. And I even said, listen, John, I'm joking. I want to get you on my show. I'm trying to grab your attention, and so we finally made it happen, and I appreciate it. And again, I'm going to go easy. Don't worry, I won't be too hard. Just kidding. But just for those who may not be familiar with you, John, Councilman Rubbo, I just want to give a little background about, give a little background on you. You're a lifelong resident of the city of Yonkers, right? Mm-hmm. Correct. You lived in you represent the 4th District here in the city, and you've pretty much lived in the 4th District your entire life. Beautiful family, by the way. I see the pictures up, and lovely family. If you haven't seen the pictures, John posts them from time to time. I like to see the trick-or-treating costumes and all that. No, beautiful family. I'm always have respect for a family man. You're a member of the Hyatt Association, Lincoln Park Taxpayers, Yonkers Sons of Italy, which recently you guys celebrated Columbus Day. I saw the, I think Impact did something there with the Sons of Italy Lodge and stuff. And I like the scooter. Whose Vespa was that?
Oh, it was a member of the lodge. Yeah, he had a great Vespa.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's a great picture of you, and it was 4 generations of Rubbo, correct? It was, you believe, your grandfather, your father, you, and your sons. Tell me a little bit about that. You have a long history here in the city of Yonkers, as well as your family. I believe your dad also was involved in politics. Is that correct, or involved in the community somehow?
No, my father really was never involved in politics, and even in the Sons of Italy, I am a member there of that lodge for almost 20 years.
Oh, wow.
I joined before my father. I joined before my grandfather, and started to get involved, and then started bringing them to meetings. But yeah, it's really much a family affair. My father was always in the food service business. He had a restaurant of his own for many years, and then he went to work for a restaurant, and ultimately was working for a school district and overseeing the Rye City schools and all of their schools and the food service. So
interesting.
Yeah,
interesting.
My grandfather had a restaurant, so hospitality was always.
Yeah. And you have your restaurant there, right? The Yonkers Brewing Company, located, if you don't know, by the pier there, the waterfront. I was there not too long ago. Very nice place. Food was great. I will say the food was very good. I'll give you props there, John. So if you haven't gone there to eat, check it out. How did you get into brewing beers? I know your family has a history in the restaurant business, but brewing beers, how did that come about?
Well, it was actually the Sons of Italy. I was at a meeting. And growing up, my grandfather always taught us how to make wine. So we'd buy the grapes and we'd crush the grapes and make the wine. And we was at a Sons of Italy meeting, and this fellow who always made wine brought in some beer. And he says, "Look, I made homemade beer." And so John kind of kicked it off, and his name was John also. And it just inspired me to try to make our own concoction. And with a friend, we did. And it just sparked the idea.
Yeah, I mean, it really took off there. You have the Yonkers Brewing. It's very successful from what I see. A lot of people are there constantly when I drive by. Again, like I said, the food was good, and you're doing very well there. I just
we work hard. It's and every day is a challenge, especially in post-COVID. Some people feel comfortable coming out, and I say post-COVID because I really do believe we're getting towards some new reality. And people do feel a little bit more comfortable coming out. They do feel a little bit more comfortable patronizing indoors. And So, hopefully we continue to see that. And with all of the great economic development we're seeing on the waterfront,
Right.
hopefully that just continues.
Yeah, and how did the and obviously I'm sure you were affected by the pandemic. The restaurant business, many restaurants were affected, having to shut down. Was it tough going for you like it was for many other restaurant owners?
It was. So March 17th was really the day, St. Patrick's Day of all days.
Oh wow, yes, big
Was
beer
the
day.
day that we needed to shut down. And so I didn't know what was next, like most other restaurateurs. So I had to lay off 18 people, and I kept 2 chefs, and they rotated through the 7 days of a week. And I went in every morning at 8 a.m. or I would go food shopping and show up and answer the phones. And I worked 7 days a week for those 3 months until we got to June and started seeing things reopen. And I was fortunate that come towards the end of May, beginning of June, as people felt a little bit more comfortable going out and being around other people, as long as they were wearing masks, that's when I was able to bring some staff back, and they were able to help me give me a little break after a long March, April and May. But it was, I didn't really get to see my wife or kids too much during that period, and
I would
my
imagine
wife held it down. So
I would imagine. I mean, it's never easy when you're a business owner, right? I'm a business owner, and it seems like working 7 days a week, it's almost a prerequisite to being a business owner. You never stop. Even when I go home, my wife doesn't understand it, right? She has a set schedule, right? So once 3 o'clock, that's it, she's done. But me, I'm getting phone calls, well after 6, 7 o'clock in the evening, and I have to attend to them, and she hates it. So you're never really, getting a break when you're a business owner. And I was going to ask you, so you were able to hire many of the staff back, because I was going to mention that your business does employ 15 part-time and full-time people, according to what I read here. And I'm not sure if that's still the case, obviously because of COVID, or would you able to get them, hire them back? That's great. So as a business owner, also, I too, hire people in the community. So, as business owners, we do contribute in that way. I also see you graduated from Iona College in 2014. So did I. Well, in 2004. A college, Iona College graduate. So that's also where I went to the Hagen School of Business there in Iona, and I graduated back in 2012, my MBA. And it says you spent 6 years after graduating in government. What were you doing in government?
So at the time, I was hired by then Mayor John Spencer, as he was in his last 6 months in office. And I just really started out as an intern, and I was helping in the public affairs office. And at that time, the public affairs office, they would go out to every single community meeting. We would go to Hyatt meetings. We'd go to HARCA meetings. And it gave me a chance to really make my way around the city, know the city a little bit better. But I had the opportunity to work with a great guy by the name of Richard Hallaby. We're still very good friends, and Rich taught me a lot, and I got to learn a lot, watching different administrations.
Yeah, when I saw that there, I said, okay, so you had, prior to becoming a councilman, you had some experience in government there, which is something that I learned myself. I did not know that. But what, you got out of government at some point, right? You went into business, and you became a business owner. But what prompted you to become or get back into politics?
Yeah, so in 2009, I went to the then Mayor Phil M. McConey, and I said I have an interest in running. I'd like to run for the city council. I'd like to see Yonkers move forward. I'd like to see it continue to grow. I want to try to help people, and so I put that on the table. And he wasn't at that time supportive. He had a candidate he wanted to support, and that was Councilman Dennis Shepard, who did a very good job before me. And so I'm a thick Italian, some would say. So
Right.
I wanted to run, and I ran. And with the help of friends and family, we collected the signatures we needed. We knocked on the doors we needed to. And I think we came just shy of, it was about 60 votes that I ended up losing by. But in life, I believe everything happens for a reason. And so although I lost then, I had an opportunity to start a business. And I worked hard at growing that before then starting the brewing company. And now I'm, on a city council with some really great folks, and I get to work with my council colleagues and Mayor Spano, and I think we're doing some good stuff.
Yeah, and we'll get into that. And I agree with you. You definitely have to be persistent. You want something, you have to go for it. And you will get knocked down sometimes, right? That's life. But you have to get back up. And that's a good lesson. I'm sure that you've role modeled for your children there. When they see that, you get knocked down and you get back up. And if you're really adamant and dedicated, you will make it happen. So yeah, let's get into politics. Now you're the councilman, District 4. You started out as a Republican, correct? And why did you decide to change switch parties? What was the reason for that decision?
Well, I was always a moderate Republican. Excuse me. And for me, education was always a high priority. Quality of life, keeping people safe. These are the things that just matter to me every single day, and those are the issues. If you were to ask this current administration, are the issues that I call about every single day. Providing for our police department so that they can help keep us safe, crime down, whether it be burglary or robbery. These quality of life issues are important to every resident. And education, in my view, is should be our top priority.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
We need to be able to invest in our kids because they are the future of the city. They are the ones that will drive good paying jobs. They are the ones that will continue to attract businesses like Lionsgate. They're the ones that will continue to attract maybe technology companies, and we must continue to invest in our kids so that this way it's the future of success of Yonkers. And so why did I change? I was hopeful that I was a Republican, and so I was hopeful that this business person and Donald Trump was going to be more like Michael Bloomberg, bring a business sense to government. Instead, I think he did the complete opposite. He certainly significantly damaged the Republican Party and Republican brand. And I did not want to associate with what he represented. And sadly, I think he represents a lot of Republicans, not all Republicans, because there are a lot of good people out there that I'm very good friends with who still have those same strong core values of just wanting to help people. They want to help people. They find education important. They care about housing, believe it or not. They care about our neighborhoods. And so, these are the people who vote with their conscience, and they don't always vote across party line. They'll vote for a Democrat. I'm sure many of them voted for Mike Spano because at the end of the day, it's who can help deliver for my community, especially on the local level. And so, I was very proud, and I had these conversations with Chairman Tommy Meyer for quite some time. But I was
chairman of the Democratic Party,
right? And so I was very proud to become a Democrat.
Yeah, and I asked because that was one of the criticisms that you've received recently in the primaries, specifically, and so it just saw you or made you out to be someone who I guess flip flops, right? To for lack of a better word. So I wanted to ask that question. As a businessman, I do understand also, where you were coming from in your thought, maybe with Donald Trump. Sometimes I don't believe in the party things. I'm apolitical, and sometimes the way I believe, people will tend to think that they'll call me a Republican, right? I get a lot of that from people on Republican, so I understand. But in this city, in Yonkers, New York specifically, we have a large population of Hispanics and Black Americans, other minorities that are coming in from other countries. So it seems that we have a large Democratic population here, and I just want to ask if that had anything to do with that decision and becoming Democrat.
No, really didn't. Because when I ran as a Republican in my district, Democrats outnumbered Republicans 2-1. But still, I ran as a Republican, and I knocked on the doors of as many voters as I possibly could. Democrats, Republicans, independents, non-registered people, because for me, it's just, who can I help? If somebody calls the office, I don't ask if they're a Democrat or Republican. And historically, I think the city, as it continues to change, but historically the city has always been a little bit more of a moderate Democrat city. My grandparents were Democrats. My grandparents now are Democrats. My mother's parents were Democrats, and my father's parents were Democrats. And it was, I remember vividly the day I was walking through Iona College, and someone I went to elementary school with and high school with, he was working a table and said, "Hey, John, are you registered to vote? You should register as a Republican." And I registered as a Republican. But my core values were always the same. It's just, I want to help people. And that goes back to the days in high school when I was working for St. John the Baptist Church there on Yonkers Avenue, every single Sunday, setting up mass, or, as a young 20-year-old, leading the Holy Name Society men's group. Those were things that I just always cared about, being able to get back to the community.
Yeah, and so I want to touch on that. Giving back to the community, you've mentioned a few times now that one of your core values is helping people and wanting to I guess better the lives of others, specifically your constituents, but also all those in the city of Yonkers. Very recently, the housing ordinance, right? It was shot down, I guess, so to speak. And you were one of the members that voted not to override the mayor's veto. However, initially you. Although from the very beginning, I will say, John, that you weren't really for 20% necessarily, but you did go ahead and vote for 20%. It was a 5-2 vote. And of course, Maranti and Breen, Republicans who pretty much remain consistent throughout the whole process, right? You voted yes. Why did you change your mind?
So, and I like you said, I've tried to be as clear as day on this one. And from the beginning, when 20 was first introduced to the council about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, it'll be 2 years, I think, in March. So about a year and a half ago, I've been very consistent to say we have to be creative. We can create more units than if you just put a blanket 20% on. We could create many more units if we think out of the box. And we need to do that in working with the mayor. We need to do that in working with the development community. We need to do that in working with not-for-profit developers like West Ham. We need to do that with the Municipal Housing Authority. There are ways that we can be creative and create significantly more housing opportunities. Most of the housing, it's very expensive to live in and around Yonkers. It's just where we. And
I want to ask you just really quick, touch on that. Which is and in terms when you mean be creative, what do you and to increase the number of units of affordable housing? Because that's great, right? That's the goal. The goal is to provide more units of affordable housing, so people have options. Also options that they can actually afford. However, that's another argument that's made, and I agree with at some point. But how do we? What is the idea, the plan that you speak of, this creative idea in creating more units? If it's not increasing the housing ordinance, then what is it that you envision that would create these units?
So since we don't have 3 hours, and I want to I want to get into the weeds. So what do I mean by being creative? One of the things that I had said 2 years ago, when we sat in a room and my colleagues and I spoke about this topic, was I think we need to invest in home ownership opportunities. And let's look at where most of the buildings are going up on the waterfront, right? So now you can take these multifamily properties that are on Hawthorne or Buena Vista or Ravine, and maybe they're run down, maybe they're abandoned, maybe someone just walked away from them. So the city can acquire these properties, or the Municipal Housing Authority, or some entity can acquire these properties, renovate them, and sell them at an affordable rate to people who want to be homeowners. Now, if they're a 2-family or 3-family, they must rent out these units at affordable rates to people in the community. And by doing that and being a little bit more open-minded and thinking outside the box, we can try to focus on helping the people of Yonkers. And this is where I really get hung up, because I want to help the people of Yonkers. The affordable housing ordinance, as it was written, as it was passed, it does handcuff us a little bit, because when you build a brand new building on Main Street and there's 400 units, and let's say it was 20%, so 80 units would be affordable. Of those 80, there is zero guarantee that they will all go to Yonkers residents. It's a lottery. It's luck of the draw. There's a lot that goes into that. And so there's no guarantee that we're going to really help the people of Yonkers. And that's who we have to help. Because
I have a question about that. So if
Sure.
if these developments are receiving YIDA benefits, right, and the YIDA, the benefits that they offer to developers are so that the projects could come into the area and better the community, provide jobs, and also just the overall prosperity and growth of the economy and the community as a whole, right? If they're receiving benefits, I'm not saying all do, I'm not sure exactly which ones, and again, we don't have the time, but if they are receiving benefits, how is it that there are people coming from outside of Yonkers and to utilize these affordable housing units? If they're receiving YIDA benefits, should they not be specifically for residents of Yonkers?
They should be, but it's illegal. So it would be illegal to discriminate and say these affordable units are only for the people of Yonkers, and that's just the law. And so that's why we can, through municipal housing, through other programming, we can be a little bit more creative, and not only take these. Sure, do I want to live in a beautiful luxury building on the waterfront? Sure, absolutely. But what do I want? I want quality, safe housing. And I think we can continue to drive that message home, that we need to build more quality, safe housing. And so does it need to be in a tower? I don't think so. Should some of it? Absolutely. But there are so many programs out there when you build 100% affordable versus putting 10%, 20% of the units, affordable units, in market rate buildings. And this is where Rich Nightingale, the CEO of West Ave, came in, and he spoke to us at a real estate meeting. And he said there are more tax credits, there are more programs, there are ways that you can raise the money for 100% affordable. So we need to keep that in mind. As long as we're building more and more affordable units. And
right.
Just give you a quick stat. Now, we do have a large percentage of Westchester County's population, right? We have roughly 22% of the county's population. We also have close to 50% of all affordable units for Westchester County. Now, there's still a need. There's a need. We right. need to try to put people into housing, and that's my goal. So I'm looking to build as many possible units as we possibly can, but also we can't make a project where it cannot be funded by a bank. And that's what it comes down to. Sadly, it's all about money. Whether you're building, whether you're building a hot dog stand, or you're building an apartment building, or affordable housing, 100% affordable housing, it's about money, and you have to be able to finance a project.
Right. So, but my concern is this, and I agree. I think building more developments, affordable housing developments, I think it's because I also understand that raising the ordinance, while it's a start, right? It's not right. going to solve the problem, right? It's not going to, magically make all these affordable housing units all of a sudden appear. So I don't agree that that's necessarily the only focus, although I think that definitely should be a focus. Mm-hmm. I agree with you mentioned that we need to build more affordable housing developments. But my issue with that is, where do we build those affordable housing developments? And are we going to, or are people going to be segregated, right? If are they going to segregate people to a certain section of town? This is affordable housing, low income housing, and then the waterfront is going to be reserved primarily for market rate and those who can actually afford to live there, which will be not a lot of the people in Yonkers, specifically in that community, in that area of Yonkers. So that's my concern. Do you see that being a concern? Or do you see that being a problem, or potentially a problem, that there can be in housing segregation?
It could be a problem, but that's part of the job of a legislator. We need to make sure that we cross our T's and dot our I's, and be sure that we're not setting ourselves up for that sort of failure like you described, because it would be a failure to begin segregating people. It should be, these buildings should be built around one another. They should be built on the waterfront, 100% affordable.
Right. Well,
that's
what I'm saying.
Right. Should not be excluded, where you're saying, okay, we're going to build you, somewhere up across town. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that it offers, just the way the system works, there are more programs available for 100% affordable. So it should be, something we talk about. And I commend my colleagues, because every single person is working hard on coming to the table and identifying what we need to do to get something very valuable passed for the people of Yonkers. And my hope, Freddie, my hope is that we're going to have 7 members of the council vote on this and vote in the affirmative. I'm hoping that because if you look at Westchester County's housing needs assessment, right, they'll say that the fastest growing population in Westchester County is senior citizens, people 85 and over. And so if that's the case, we need to think about, how do we build more senior housing? How do we keep good people in the city? Maybe they want to sell their home. They want an affordable unit. They need a 1-bedroom, a 2-bedroom. They don't need a big house anymore, or a small house. Right. So we want to keep people here. We want to help them. And I think those are the places where you look across the city, there's a need for good senior housing.
I want to go back to the pathway to home ownership. I've heard you mention that before. I like the idea. I do like the idea. I just don't. The logistics of the idea, to me, is where I kind of get stuck. Right? People are already, we're talking about those who qualify for affordable housing and putting them into positions of home ownership. How do we do that in a situation, in an economy like what we have now, and the fact that they are qualifying for affordable housing, which essentially means that they're making below a certain income? How would they then qualify to purchase a home? I know when I bought my first home, you have to have a certain amount of money in the bank. You have to put a certain amount down. There's all these things. You have to have closing costs come out to a lot. How do we get someone who is qualifying for affordable housing, and barely, because the argument is that even with the affordable housing units, people still can't afford them, to owning a home, particularly here in the city of Yonkers, where the prices are really high?
So that comes down to programming, right? So we have 2 components of building affordable. We have the affordable housing ordinance, and then we're going to have a commitment to programming. And this is where the administration comes in. This is where Mayor Spano and his administration come to the table, and we need to work with them to build this programming. Right now, if you look on Ashburton and Nipperhan, right, we have the Father Pat Carroll Green homes. Those homes are owner occupied. So someone bought those 2 families. They have the income coming in from the units up above or below, and they live in the other unit. And the city of Yonkers works with those homeowners to make sure that they can repair a leaky faucet, so make sure that they're paying their bills, to manage their money, to pay the mortgage, to vet incoming tenants. So we have programming that already does that. And so we've already started this work. So my idea is, let's continue to expand on the Father Pat Carroll Green homes.
And I agree, and I like a lot of these ideas. My question is, when will we see this, right? Because it seems like, since I've been hearing about it, kind of getting myself more involved in this, I hear a lot of talking, but I haven't seen anything actually done. The ordinance was shot down. That's still at 10%. There really isn't any affordable housing developments going up, at least at the same rate as the market rate of developments are going up. And then I understand that pathway to home ownership, which seems like it's just something that does take time. We don't have time.
Right, it does.
People don't have time.
But what we do have is we have this existing housing stock. We have land that we can build maybe a 2-family or a smaller 1-family. The city of Yonkers owns some of this land already. And so if we were to go and change the ordinance to 20% And we did that, right? So let's say that went into effect. Well, now we need to wait for the next big project to come to the city, in hopes that they come, in hopes that they present, in hopes that we can get them through the process in the next, let's say, conservative 2 or 3 years. Right. That building goes up over the course of two or 3 years. We don't see a single affordable unit for 6 to 7, 8 years, right?
No, and I understand that, and I definitely understand where you're coming from, Councilman. What I'm saying is there a plan? So is there, okay? So let's say we what you're saying is the best approach. When do we start seeing the development, the rehabbing, the refurbishing, or the building, the new build, new construction of these affordable housing units, so we can quickly start to get individuals into them that need them?
So right now, the Democratic caucus is working closely with the administration because we want to see something passed. We want to get something on paper. We want it reviewed. We want public input, and we want to get it done. And so we are working very closely with the mayor, and we want to see what we can present to the public, hopefully within the next couple weeks, if not before or after the new year, because once that's presented and once we vet this through the public and we look at, we've now come together, we've created something that we think is dynamic and will work, and we'll have an action plan that then once passed, we get right to work and we get it done.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think that moving forward, and at least I think that speaking about it, right? And we don't want to go in circles, right? We don't want to continue chasing our tails. So there needs to see some progress. And I think that's the big disappointment when the housing ordinance was shot down, because it represented a lack of progress, zero progress. So I think there needs to be some progress. I ask you these questions because you are the chairman, correct, of the real estate committee. You are involved a lot with the planning, the developing stuff, even the idea. I'm sure you're familiar with that. That's why I asked you these questions. So you are the guy in the council specifically that is very involved in this stuff. And I would like to see you possibly pushing more of this and speaking about it more, because I think hearing about it, having it talked about, people get a sense that things are moving along, and then actually seeing these things happen and the affordable housing developments going up, right? And then also addressing the issue with the AMI. Right? Do we do a Westchester County AMI? Is there a Yonkers AMI? However that factors in to get these affordable housing units up and the people in them, right? I think that's what we need to see happen, more so than talking. I get it. I've asked a lot of, the other elected officials, same question. It seems like we talk about the same thing, and let's move forward. And will you be committed to actually kind of maybe really pushing things forward and seeing some change, and something where the city of Yonkers and those that need the affordable housing could really say, okay, look, John, I appreciate what you're doing, because John, I will say, in doing my research, you get a lot of negative, there's a negative perception about you out there, right? And I don't like to, I didn't know you personally, I'm not going to say anything bad about you. But what I've seen comments, I've seen things on online, some of these news on pages or whatever. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that you get this reputation maybe from some people?
I follow along, and it's on. I think personally, it's really comes down to a handful of the same people who are commenting on a lot of the platforms. But I will say, and this actually has meant a lot to me when I voted to uphold more or less the mayor's veto 2 weeks ago. People came out to say, especially the advocates for more affordable housing, which I am an advocate for more affordable housing. But when they came out, most of them community-oriented people came out and say, but John he's been very consistent from day one. And they gave that to me because I did not want to come out and say otherwise. I've tried to communicate my message, communicate where I think we can go, because I do think we can go from 10% to maybe 14%. I do think that we can look at the AMI. We have to use Westchester because that's what's recognized by the federal government. Right. But we need to take into account how much less our families make here in Yonkers and who are mostly in need. And so, look, I try to get to work. I roll up my sleeves every day, and I'm working to build my business. I'm working on supporting my family, and I tried my best to support the families of Yonkers. And the affordable housing ordinance, I'll tell you, Freddie, I've had conversations with the CEO of West Ave. I've had conversations with a law professor from Pace University who specifically teaches and instructs on affordable housing and writes these really in-depth essays and documents on affordable housing. I've spoken to market rate developers because that's who this is going to affect. And at the end of the day, everyone from West Ave to the developers, to the lawyers, to everyone involved, they say the same thing. If the bank does not think the project can be financed properly, they will not finance a project. And it's not the big bad developers. It comes down to the banks. Will the banks lend the money? And if we create an ordinance where it becomes difficult to show the financial success of a project, they won't get financing and we won't build. And we need desperately to build more affordable housing.
Right. And I completely understand that. And, again, I'm in business. I understand, the numbers and, having to make the numbers work and, financing and, the banks are going to say, hey, listen, this project doesn't look good to us. They're not going to want to lose money, right? They only want to invest in winners, right? And I get that. I totally understand that. The only thing I'm saying is just, there needs to be something done, right? And maybe not 20%, right? And I can understand, what you're saying. Maybe 14. I think that's a good number. 15 is a good number. But then also what you mentioned earlier, adding more developments, affordable housing developments along with that increase, and I think it needs to happen right away. I think it needs to happen sooner than later. And the more it drags on, the more it just looks like no one in the council, well, not no one, but there are some people that are passionate about the increasing it. But, you specifically, since we're talking to you, do not care about the affordable housing, even though that's what you're saying, because we're not seeing it happen. Right. And again, and I'm not saying that everybody has a negative opinion. I'm just saying I've seen some comments and stuff. And, some people have mentioned things to me. But again, I judge people based on my interactions with them, and not everyone. As you can see, Lorraine Lopez, not everyone has a negative opinion of him. Many of us and many of his constituents appreciate and love him. And I'm sure you do. And I didn't say everyone, Lorraine. I didn't say all. I said some, actually. Some is smaller than many, and is definitely smaller than all.
And Freddie, too, because housing, investing in the communities, right now. If we go out and we look, and I drive this every day, but if you look, there are properties that are abandoned, that are left to the wayside on Buena Vista. And I specifically mention them because we're now going to see this project build in Ludlow, which now if we can connect Ludlow and the waterfront downtown and continue to enhance our communities and our neighborhoods, and we create good quality, safe housing that helps with crime, that helps with housing our children, that helps with education. And like I said from the beginning, the things that matter the most to me, the principles that I really try to drive on here are, providing for our young families and for our seniors. And if we can, do those things and create good quality housing, it helps with education, it helps with quality of life, and then it comes full circle.
I agree. Improving the community is very important. The way the community looks is very important. Just the aesthetics of it, right? The kids walking through the neighborhood, they want to see, beautiful buildings. They don't want to see broken glass, deteriorating buildings and garbage on the sidewalk. I agree with that. My concern, John, I grew up on Buena Vista there, so I've seen it at its worst, back in the 90s or 80s. And I want to see the people here in Yonkers, those who've been here forever, not get left out. And that's my biggest concern, John, Councilman Rubbo. And I'm always going to fight for that. I'm always going to go hard for that because I do want to see, the people here are taken care of. We have, a homeless population that's ever increasing. Then Getty Square, it seems like there definitely needs to be more low-income housing and homeless shelters. I know you have to run. I'm going to let you go here. I just wanted to go through two more comments because I want to be fair to those that view. And then I'll let you go there. A moderate, what values do you espouse when you hire a felon convicted of bribing a city councilor? Also, can you explain your campaign paid for lawsuit against? I guess this is, I didn't read this, against a potential opponent filed by your restaurant employee in court papers. I guess this is referring to the gentleman that challenged Carlos Burgos's signatures. Apparently, he worked at your establishment. Is that true or false?
Yeah, he is someone that I know. He's a friend of mine. He was, and we had spoken about this topic, and he was concerned with signatures that were bad, signatures that potentially were not actually signed by an actual voter. And so sadly, there is fraud, and we did question it. But Carlos was put on the ballot, and Carlos and I ran against one another, and I won in my June primary by 57% of the vote. And I'm proud to have won my Democratic primary, and now I'm going to continue to work for the people of Yonkers.
And the last one, you talk about fiscal responsibility, but just over a year ago, you were proud to say that you had bonded approximately $250,000.
I'm guessing that has to do with Coyne Park. Yep. So whenever we do a capital project, meaning we fix roads, we build buildings, we improve buildings, what we do is we go out and we'll borrow that money, and we can stretch that over the course of 30 years, and eventually you refinance, et cetera. But the rates are very, very attractive right now. And so, I'm of the mindset that although, yes, I am fiscally responsible, but I do believe that we need to improve our infrastructure. That includes sewers, that includes drainage, right? We're seeing a lot of flooding these days.
Absolutely.
And so, yes, also, I mean, 250,000 is a low number. That was for the improvement of the exterior of one park. I'm proud to say that we've borrowed $130 million for our school system and the infrastructure in our school system over the last 4 years that I've been on the council. $3 million of that went to purchasing computers for our students, laptops for our students. And that was really led by Councilwoman Tasha Diaz, and the council fought for that to make sure we had that $3 million to provide to the superintendent to go out and provide devices to the students who really needed them.
Yeah, and there was definitely a huge need, and there was still a huge need after the fact. But I'm glad they're back in school now. Mm-hmm. Well, I appreciate you joining me. I know you had to run, so I try to get as many of this stuff I wanted to speak to you, John. I thank you. It's been kind of a while. We try to get you on the show, but you finally came on. I appreciate you. Perfect gentleman. Thank you for coming on. If you do see Councilwoman Tasha Diaz, let her know I'm not that bad. Please come on the show. I would love to have her. I'm waiting for her to respond to my email. You responded, right? So
I do appreciate it. And I right now is just a challenging time towards the end of election season. Next Tuesday is election day. We have some really great candidates on the ballot, and so I wanted to get on here last Tuesday, but I'm happy we did it this Tuesday. And we do have a city council meeting in about 15 minutes. So that's why I was a little tight on time. But I would love to come back on, Freddie, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to really talk about these things, right? Because like you said, if people think that I was against affordable housing, I could talk all day and night about affordable and why I believe we need more and how I think we can build more immediately versus wait 8 years down the line.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you coming on. And I just always say it's about talking about it, and let's put it out there and let's speak on it. Thank you very much. By the way, you're going to run for mayor? Mayor, possibly? That's what I'm hearing.
I don't know. Right now we have a mayor. He has 2 more years, and
he does.
Reelected. So
he does. But they're thinking about it. I hear your name coming up, John. Thank you very much. I appreciate you joining me tonight. And good luck in the meeting there, or enjoy your meeting tonight. Take care. I appreciate it. Freddie. Thank you, John. Take care. Good night. That was Councilman John Rubbo of District 4. Was I hard? I wasn't hard, right? I was never planning on being super hard. I let the people of the city of Yonkers ask the questions there. I just try to get them on the show. I asked some questions, the important questions, specifically about the logistics of our government, our city government. What's going on? He mentioned that building more affordable housing well, 100% affordable housing developments was important in what they wanted to do, and I agree with that. I also agree that we do need to raise this housing ordinance as well, But each one is just a part of this overall strategy to improve the situation here in the city of Yonkers with the housing crisis. Affordable housing is very important and it's something that needs to be addressed right away. So I said to the councilman, please, I need you, and it's important that you push for this, keep it in the conversation and make it happen. Let's not continue to talk about it. Let's actually be about it. I think that's the biggest issue with the people of the city of Yonkers. They want to see some movement. No progress has been made. It seems like you doing a bait and switch, right? That's what it seems like. You're playing with us. You're playing with our emotions, Smokey. But that's what it seems like. And unless you're actually making stuff happen, we're always going to have the opinion that you're not really for the people. And I don't want to believe that. I don't want to believe anything negative. I like to be positive as much as possible. And I appreciate it, Councilman Rubbo, coming on the show. It's been a while. I know he didn't really want to kind of come on because of maybe some of the jokes I've made, but it was all in fun. Some of it was true, but some of it was mostly just in fun. And I got him to come on. He agreed, and I appreciate it. And this is what it's all about. So, Councilwoman Tasha Diaz, please, I would love for you to join me on Basement Politics. Let's just talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's put it out there. The people want to know. People have questions. They would love to ask you. And it's only right, as an elected official, that you answer the questions that the constituents have. It's only right. But again, the affordable housing was my biggest thing with Councilman Rubbo because he is the chairman of the real estate committee. He's very involved in the planning. There was more questions I wanted to ask, although we were limited on time, and I wanted to make sure I got out some of the important things because my primary concern is not to create controversy, is not to root out some type of corruption somewhere or some illegal stuff going on. No, not necessarily. My goal is to help the people of the city. That's the most important thing. It's not about getting anyone. It's about helping the people and seeing things improve. But if we have to get you, we will. I'm Freddy Vazquez. Thank you for joining me. This is Basement Politics. Tune in tomorrow, part 2 of the Yonkers School Board and the mandates. Unmasking the Yonkers School Board or unmask our kids. You choose, but we will be coming for you. Thank you for joining me, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Freddy Vazquez. This is Basement Politics. Peace. That's all, folks.
You're watching Basement Politics with my dad, Freddy Vazquez.